ever get that feeling? Like you're about to meet someone and you just know, like really know they're going to be fascinating.
You mean like this James Piecowye we're diving into?
Exactly. And someone clearly agrees, right? I mean, we've got the bio, the highlights, even a whole pronunciation guide ready to go.
Someone did their homework. Though, honestly, it's not the pronunciation that hooks me, it's the sheer variety in his background. Academia, media, building businesses. It's like he's allergic to staying in one lane.
Okay, but before we get too far, for anyone whose brain is stuck on those syllables, it's Piecowye. But you're right, more interesting than how you say the name is what he's done with it. And that's where this variety you mentioned gets really intriguing.
Yeah, so many people talk about communication, being passionate about it, but with him, it's not just talk, is it? It's like he's out there building the whole darn playground.
And not just one swing set either, right? We're talking TEDx, the whole shebang. He co-curated the first TEDx Dubai and TEDx Dubai Women. Those are some serious stages to set.
Exactly, and that takes more than just talking a big game. It takes vision, organization, the ability to wrangle a room full of brilliant, opinionated people. And on top of that, we've got creative mornings on his resume, too.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And not just attending. He was hosting those, wasn't he? 77 breakfast lectures, all on zero budget. Who does that?
Someone who's seriously resourceful, that's for sure. This guy doesn't wait for permission or funding. He just makes things happen. That entrepreneurial spirit, you see it everywhere in his work.
And not just in these big events, right? I mean, the man's a self-described YouTube content creation trainer, dean of a media college, but also down in the trenches, teaching the hands-on stuff. There's no ivory tower here.
Exactly. He's bridging that gap between traditional media and this new wild west of content creation. This isn't some stuffy academic. This is someone who gets it, you know? He's living proof that communication today, it's about being multi-platform, always evolving.
Which brings us to something I'll admit threw me for a loop initially. His CV, buried in there among all these things, it says he's a certified, wait for it, sound therapy practitioner.
Now that's intriguing. Certified by something called Sonic Temple, no less.
You know what? I am so glad you're the one here with me because at first I was like, what does this even mean? But seeing the connections he makes elsewhere, now I'm dying to know more.
Right. We've talked about his love of audio, radio, podcasts, but this feels like we're about to go down a rabbit hole. And honestly, I'm here for it.
Okay.
And here's where things get really fascinating, right? You got this guy knee-deep in media, but then, bam, sound therapy practitioner. It's like, wait, there's more.
It's like finding a hidden room in a house you thought you knew. But I've got to ask, what's the connection? What's the thread that ties this back to everything else?
Well, think about it this way. We're bombarded with messages all day long, right? But what actually sticks with us, what actually makes us feel something, makes us change our minds or see the world differently.
I see where you're going with this. It's the stuff that hits us in the feels, right? Not just in the head.
Exactly. And what's more powerful at tapping into our emotions than sound? Music, a voice, even just certain sounds. They can bypass all our intellectual defenses and go straight for the heart.
Okay, now that you're saying it like that, it's starting to make a lot more sense. He's not just interested in broadcasting a message. He wants to craft a whole experience. And sound, well, that's a whole other layer of immersion.
Right. Like he even says in his bio something about redefining media boundaries. At first, I kind of skimmed over that, but now I'm like, hold on a second.
Yeah, that's not just about using the latest social media platform. It's about fundamentally changing how we experience stories, ideas, information.
And this is where that Unglazy project of his, that podcast drama he created, it all starts to click into place. I mean, he's taking this story, an expat family in the UAE, and he's using audio drama to create this whole world you can just fall into.
It's like he's building empathy on a soundscape, taking something that might seem totally foreign to most listeners and finding a way to make it resonate on a gut level.
And knowing what we know about him, his drive to connect people, to spark those light bulb moments, it's not a stretch to think he sees this sound therapy as another tool in the kit.
I mean, he's clearly not afraid to experiment, right? So is it that much of a leap to think he's bringing this into his teaching, maybe even using sound design in his podcast to really level up that emotional impact?
Honestly, I'd be more surprised if he wasn't. This is someone who blurs the lines, who takes inspiration from everywhere and anywhere. You don't get the sense he's boxing himself in with labels or categories. It's all connected.
He's like a walking, talking argument for interdisciplinary thinking. And it's a good reminder that sometimes the most exciting discoveries happen at the edges, where things intersect in unexpected ways.
Exactly. And it's not just sound where he does this, right? We see that same fluidity in how he approaches work in general. In person, remote, online, offline. He's comfortable wherever the conversation's happening.
It's like he understands that adaptability, being able to roll with the changes, that's the real key to success in today's world, no matter what you're passionate about.
100%. And that willingness to meet people where they are, whether it's a podcast, a YouTube video, or a breakfast lecture hall, it lets him reach a global audience. He's building a community that transcends physical boundaries. And that's pretty remarkable.
You know, it's funny, when we started this whole deep dive, I had this picture in my head of James as this master networker, this guy who can talk to anyone, which he totally is, don't get me wrong.
Oh, absolutely. Building bridges between people, between ideas, it's kind of his superpower.
Yeah, but it was all very, strategic, impressive, sure, but then this sound therapy thing came up, and it's like, wait, there's more to this guy. It's not just strategy, it's, I don't know, artistry.
Well, that's good. Yeah, like he's not just building bridges, he's composing entire symphonies of connection. And like any good symphony, there's a whole lot of heart woven into it.
And speaking of heart, those 77 breakfast lectures on zero budget, that's dedication, man. This isn't someone waiting for the perfect opportunity to come along. He's out there making his own.
And that's an important thing for our listener to take away from all this. James Piecowye's story, it's proof that you don't need a fancy title or a ton of resources to make an impact. It's about saying yes to opportunities, even the weird ones, and following your curiosity wherever it leads.
Even if it leads you to become a sound therapy practitioner certified by something called Sonic Temple.
Right?
Now,
You never know where the next breakthrough idea is going to come from. But seriously, the biggest takeaway here, the thing that really makes James stand out, it's that infectious enthusiasm. You can tell he loves what he does. And that energy, it's contagious.
so look, if you ever get the chance to meet James Piecowye in person, take it. But even if you just stumble across his work online, take a minute to really pay attention. This is someone who sees connections other people miss, who finds inspiration in the most unexpected places. And who knows, maybe he'll inspire you to go explore a few uncharted territories of your own.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder those connections. This deep dive is over, but your own exploration, that's just beginning.